There's been a lot of talks lately about Genshin causing this feeling of fatigue or burnout that a lot of players and even some content creators have expressed over the past week, and this couldn't get more ironic since the game's first anniversary year is basically one day away when this video goes out live, but at the same time, maybe it is the right moment to reflect on this whole situation. First of all, let's address the most common critique this game has received for the longest time, which is the playtime. Unless there's an event happening that actually takes more than a few moments to complete, you're basically looking at 30 to 60 minutes of daily content to experience, so that you can do the commissions and empty out the resin. But even after getting an injection of brand new content like new zone or a quest, every once in a while, there's always going to be that phase of downtime or filler content. Now, you gotta give props to MiHoYo for managing to stick to a schedule and pump out so much stuff over the year, but if you look closely enough, you'll start to see a pattern of how this content is designed to appeal to very specific groups of people, because it's actually insane how the developers managed to keep Genshin so profitable and yet so accessible to different kinds of players. Like, everybody can recall how when you're just starting out, there's a pretty huge world left for you to explore and you feel overwhelmed with the amount of things that you can do. Tons of side quests, secrets, collectibles, and chests waiting to be uncovered, all of which come with a price tag of 0. In fact, I created a new free-to-play account a while ago, and just by logging in casually every few days, there's still just so much stuff piling up, not to mention because of low adventure rank, a lot of events are not even available. Now, on the other end of the spectrum are the long-term players, which is probably safe to assume would be the majority of you watching this video. Can you even imagine how many times you had to clear that same old commission if you played the game since launch? It's kind of scary if you think about it, this sort of repetition existing as a major source of experience for your adventure rank, not to mention it's basically the most reliable way you can get your hands on primo gems, which, by the way, requires you to do the commissions 3 days in a row, just so you can get a single wish. So in order to break this monotony, there's a bunch of new events getting served almost on a weekly basis, which acts as a hook to keep that long-term player's retention to the max by offering rewards better than the ones you would get by regular means outside of the world exploration. And it's working. In fact, it's working so well that you can expect to see new gacha games copying this player retention strategy in the nearest future. But there is one flaw with this whole approach, or perhaps a better way to describe in a very corporate lingo would be the term unmet customer needs. Basically, as previously mentioned, there's two categories of players you will belong to, but when the time comes, you will go into a third group, which is when you start expecting to see some real endgame content. After all of those artifacts you're farming are kind of pointless in the world, since you can wipe out most enemies with the right team comp and mediocre stats, so the only place that's left to challenge you is the Spiral Abyss and the occasional battle event. Even now, every time you see a character showcase, the only relevant place to test them out would be the Abyss and maybe a few of the more harder domains or weekly bosses. But for world exploration, while it comes and goes with its relevancy, sometimes running that double animo comp makes perfect sense, but in a regular routine, you warp to your location by using the nearest teleportation point, do the commission or pick some resources, and then repeat until you're done. So why exactly could this third group be unsatisfied? Well, for starters, MiHoYo has basically done nothing new for the Spiral Abyss over the whole year, aside from changing some of the enemy and leyline disorder rotations, but that's pretty much it. There's no long-term goal to work towards once you're done with the Abyss, other than farming for better artifacts or raising a new character. But it makes you wonder, if MiHoYo would bleed money by not offering something substantial for endgame focused players, would they really not consider adding new additions to Spiral Abyss, or introduce some sort of a different endgame mode? Truth is, people get bored no matter what kind of content you're throwing at them, and the biggest concern every live service game company has is to keep their players from quitting the game. So when you go through a whole year and examine the type of content MiHoYo is pushing out and still dominating the gaming revenue charts, then it's easy to see why they would continue onwards with this strategy. So if Genshin is mostly designed around casual attendance, and there's really no tangible endgame besides Spiral Abyss, then could this be the main reason why a lot of players and content creators are feeling the burnout, or is there more to it? Back when video games didn't have microtransactions or presence in the mobile market, most of them were designed with an intention to please those who enjoy the genre, but in the present, especially for live service games like Genshin, the design is actually centered around the player himself, or at least what type of gamer they are. In fact, if you look at MiHoYo's previous game, Genshin Impact 3rd, you'll notice a couple of things that stand out. The menu is cluttered with a ton of options, there's more than one currency for exchanging things, characters have a ton of talent and skill descriptions, and there's actual endgame modes you can participate in. So all of this sounds like Genshin should be adopting the same mindset and introducing a lot of different choices for the players, but the problem here is that Honkai is many times less popular than Genshin. In fact, their player counts and revenues are so different from each other, with Genshin taking a massive lead, that it almost feels like cheating. And honestly, even without the data or analytics, you could take a wild guess and say that Honkai Impact is geared towards a hardcore player, while Genshin is all about the casual experience. And there's nothing wrong with any of these approaches. The only difference is that it's been proven many times that the amount of casual players in the world eclipses every other category like hardcore or strategic gamers. But what does it even mean to be a casual player? Could you really say that it's attributed to your own skill level to be called casual, or instead it's how you try to avoid competition? Because you can't even try to be the latter, outside from some whales having fun speed clearing the abyss, but officially, there are no leaderboards, PvP, or anything competitive in Genshin. So does this mean we're all casual gamers? Maybe, but since there are no systems established besides the abyss to have a good way to evaluate ourselves, we're left with exploring new regions and attending events, which is exactly what has been happening for a year now. And let's be honest here, there's a ton of variety in this game, which is why it's so hard to not keep coming back and checking out the newest and latest stuff. Like even now, there's an event that's giving away a fish claymore, which is actually pretty strong, so taking the time out of your day and obtaining it seems reasonable enough for most of us. But the thing is, this gameplay loop, which is tied together to new content that we get to experience for a limited time before it goes away, is quite honestly a pretty rewarding experience. But even after a while of having this so-called theme park content served on a weekly basis, it can get a little dry after a while. It's not like every event is awesome, some of them are honestly quite boring, and let's not forget before Inazuma there was a massive content drop period that affected a lot of players and content creators, and now that this newest region is wrapping up with only one island remaining, it's possible those who lived through the previous period are now starting to feel the same thing is about to happen before the next region arrives. The other big factor has to be all of those artifacts and characters we keep raising and pouring our resources into, only to have Spiral Abyss as the place that truly pushes them to their limit, while world exploration remains a joke for anyone who has decent artifacts and a functioning team. So combine all of this together, a game that's catered to casual attendance, a gameplay loop that's been designed around content with expiration date, and a stamina system that keeps you coming back every day. It really is a weird mixture that seems to be working extremely well, but at the same time, there are still players who want something more permanent, like endgame content that lasts longer than the usual Spiral Abyss bi-weekly reset and offers something in return for all those investments you've made into your characters. It's still kind of naive to assume that the only reason people would quit Genshin, or at least feel burnt out, is that there's no serious endgame content. You can easily just get bored of the game without a serious reason, or find something else that you enjoy more. It's not like we live in the world where you have endless content you can consume, right? But a lot of players continue logging on daily to get their fix of primo gems, so that they have a chance at getting that next character or weapon, and sometimes, the burnout can be the cause of just trying to keep up with the game, which is not something that you would think a casual player would care about, but because there are so many interesting and unique characters coming out constantly, everyone wants to get their hands on at least one of them, and if you miss out on some limited rewards, it can make you feel dissatisfied to say the least. But at the end of the day, the current design of the game is all about having fun with world exploration. When we get new regions or story quests, while the events act as a buffer and a constant hook to keep the player's retention high with various rewards. Personally, this whole journey has been amazing so far, and a lot of great memories were made. From epic story moments to fun events like playing tag with each other, there's definitely a ton of unique things the game has introduced over the year. Burnout is unavoidable at some point, but it is interesting to see this concern being expressed recently over the social media, so perhaps MiHoYo can think of something new with all the analytics data they are getting from the players, not to mention the surveys they keep sending out for feedback. Genshin is still pretty much a fresh game that's only been on the block for a year, and it has massive potential for future updates. Just don't make the same mistake twice with the recent anniversary rewards fiasco, and let every player know that they are appreciated without trying to insult them with randomized rewards. This isn't really a typical video you would expect to see, but hopefully going through the burnout process from an analytical standpoint makes sense to you. Genshin still remains a wonderful game that offers a lot of entertainment to a lot of players, not to mention the whole hype surrounding characters stands strong even after a whole year since the game has been out. It's not easy to talk about this subject as a content creator, so if you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already, and leave a like or comment. Thanks for sticking till the end, and see you soon.